Welcome back. We are continuing our discussion about generational housing. I'm Cleve Gaddis, and you're listening to Go Gaddis Real Estate Radio, where we help you go from novice in real estate to confident pro so life's biggest real estate moves feel clear and certain, not scary. If you've got questions or, for example, topic ideas, go to gogaddisradio.com. That's GOGADDIS radio.com. You can send us a note. You can nominate your neighborhood for our neighborhood spotlight, where we do some in-depth investigating to help you understand as a homeowner in the neighborhood whether you have a particular advantage. And you can subscribe to our podcast. In our prior segment, we were talking about generational housing. We mentioned that I think it was $84 trillion. Let me go back in my notes. Yes, $84 trillion in generational wealth in the next 20 years is going to pass from baby boomers to Millennials and Gen Zs. That is a ton. I would assume a good bit of it will go to Gen Xs as well. The article didn't really say anything about that specifically, but the generational housing boom really isn't just numbers. It isn't just money. It's really something that will change neighborhoods, something that will change prices, and something that will even change family life. As we talked about before going into the break, Tammy and I have plans for her mother to be able to live either with us in the same house or in an auxiliary dwelling unit. Tammy likes to call it the pool house, but what we mean is a little two-bedroom house built out behind the pool. Never had a pool before in my life, but we're planning to get one when we buy a home in Dallas, which I think is kind of necessary considering when I'm in Dallas in July and August, I almost burst into flames when I get outside walking around. But let's talk about this. We're going to look at what are the changes for sellers. What do sellers need to consider? What are the changes for communities? What are changes for the investment angle, if you will? And then kind of what's the future outlook? Sometimes I just get tongue-tied. What's the future outlook? And so let's look at for sellers. So for sellers, if you're thinking you're going to sell your home sometime in the next 20 years, timing matters. That's the first point. Timing always matters. Very difficult to time the market, but timing matters. Boomers are staying in their homes longer than before. In the 1980s, listen to this. Boomers are people that at that time stayed in their home for an average of 6 years. Today, it's over 13 years. And so what happens is that extension of the number of years that somebody lives in a home basically delays the supply of sales or listings that would have been normally coming to market. It delays that supply from hitting the market, which keep prices strong. So you've heard so many people over the last couple of years, or maybe you have, maybe you haven't. I certainly have. But we've heard so many people over the last few years say all these institutional investors, these companies, the Blackstones, BlackRock, whoever it is, are out there buying the properties and they're screwing up the inventory. But it could be that boomers staying in their house longer. Or I know the last house I had, and I'm a Gen X, I was born in 1968. The last home I had, I stayed in for a little over 23 years, almost 24 years I stayed in that home. That is way longer than 13 years. That is way longer. So you got to worry about timing. And as a home seller, you need to be thinking, do I want to wait for all of this inventory to come on the market over the next 20 years, or do I want to get out there ahead of it and sell when I don't have as much competition? Certainly, I do not have a crystal ball, but I do believe that if inventory were twice as much as it was today, we would be in pretty bad shape from a market. The next thing the sellers need to worry about is, does their home appeal to younger buyers? So like smart home features, EV chargers, electric vehicle chargers, home offices, flexible spaces are especially attractive. And younger buyers, and this is Cleve giving you his thoughts. You may or may not be able to verify this online, but younger buyers, in my opinion, have very little appetite for making changes to the property after they buy it. So when I go on a listing appointment, I tend to put properties in one of three categories, and they're very simple. I call them A, B, and C. And if you're not driving, you can close your eyes and think about this. An A is a property that looks like 2025. So I could ask you, what color are the kitchen cabinets? What color are the countertops? What color are the floors? What color are the master bath cabinets and countertops. And generally all those colors are fairly light. They're not white. They're not as gray as they used to be. There's a little more earth tone colors coming in, but they're very, very light. There's very little dark colors, very little dark countertops, very, very little dark cabinets, very little stained dark cabinets in 2025. So that's an A. A B is a property that looks like 2012. Dark floors, dark cabinets, darker countertops, everything's dark. That's just what they did in 2010, 2012, 2015. And then a C, I say looks like 1987. And you can always tell a C because when you look at the wallpaper in the kitchen, there's green vines growing up the wallpaper. And you laugh when I say that, but it is true. You have, polished brass fixtures. You have, I forget what you call the fancy jewel tone colors you have in the house. So you have blues and rose colored or wine color, whatever you want to call it, and greens, and everything was very distinctive, and those things don't work now. And just younger buyers are more sensitive. And I'm going to make a bold statement here that some of my other real estate professionals may or may not agree with. But today, when the condition of a house is way above average, when it gives somebody, I can move into it, I don't have to do anything to it, in my opinion, buyers are willing to pay more than they even should be willing to pay. So you got to worry about timing, how much competition's coming on the market as a seller. You have to worry about whether or not your home appeals to younger buyers. And you're going to have a certain percentage of boomer to boomer transactions. So a large share of current sales are older homeowners downsizing or relocating to a retirement friendly area, not just selling to millennials. So in some cases, a boomer moves out, boomer buys because it's a great neighborhood for grandparents or something like that. So let's take a look real quickly about how it will affect buyers. Right now, and you know this, we've got an affordability crunch. Millennials are buying later than previous generations. The average age today, 36 years old. The average age in 1981, 29 years old. This is mostly due to student loan debt, which in some cases is just totally out of hand, and higher cost of ownership. The houses cost more, and the cost of financing the house cost more. You also have lots of creative strategies that go on for buyers. So co-buying with friends or family is on the rise, believe it or not. Multi-generational purchases are growing 20%. 1 in 5, as I mentioned in the prior segment, of buyers now live with an extended family. That's pretty amazing. And then you have investor competition. I mentioned this earlier in the segment. Big institutional investors are still competing in certain markets, driving up prices in those starter home segments. Let's switch. If you've just joined us, by the way, you're listening to Go Gaddis Real Estate Radio right here on AM 920. We're talking about generational housing. $84 trillion in generational wealth is going to be transferred from boomers to millennials and Gen Zs over the next 20 years. $84 trillion. I can't even imagine a number that is that big and that high. And we're looking at the things that sellers need to be sensitive to, that buyers need to be sensitive to. Now let's take a look at how it might affect communities. You can expect a shift in demand. You can expect more demand for walkable communities, mixed-use developments, homes with in-law suites or ADUs, accessory dwelling units that I mentioned earlier. You also need to be sensitive to the local economy. Younger generations prioritize proximity to amenities, coffee shops, fitness, co-working. When I bought my first house, I couldn't have walked to a coffee shop or a grocery store. I mean, I guess I could have, but it would have been 5 miles for me to get there. They want to be close to fitness and co-working, and all of this reshapes the way neighborhoods are developed. And then you have this generational clash. Boomers often fight zoning changes. I know as I was growing up not growing up, but as I was a young adult and raising a family in Johns Creek, I was involved in a lot of those zoning fights. Some of you who are developers might be listening going, yeah, I remember. I came up against you, and so we were big NIMBYs, not in my backyard. No, we don't want this. Boomers want stability, quiet. Younger buyers push for more density, more affordability. We've got this huge city center development going on out here in Johns Creek, and there's going to be some serious density in this area, and it's never really been there before. Let's take a look at it finally from an investment angle. Real estate is still the top wealth building tool for every generation. Let me say that one more time. Real estate is still the top wealth building tool for every generation. Millennials now own more homes collectively than Gen X did at the same time, believe it or not, despite the affordability challenges. And you're going to have regional hotspots in the U.S. The Southeast, which is where we are, Texas, Mountain West are drawing younger buyers because of lower cost and job growth. So if we look at the future, you're going to get this huge boomer wealth release as more boomers pass wealth or downsize. Expect an unlocking of inventory, which really could reshape affordability in the 2030s, might make it more affordable. Be on the lookout for policy changes. Local governments are under pressure to loosen zoning, allow accessory dwelling units, and approve more multifamily projects, which is already happening all over Metro Atlanta. And then the design of the future might be different. Builders are pivoting to smaller, more affordable homes, really a reversal from the McMansion era. Long story short, we are in the middle of the largest housing turnover in U.S. history, but it's not just about buying and selling. It's really about how multiple generations will live together, how communities will adapt, how wealth will be built and passed down. This is really the generational housing boom, and it's already reshaping the American dream. If you are looking or you want to see how this might be playing out in your neighborhood, visit GoGaddisRadio.com and let's dig in together. While you're there, if you want to know what the upside is, which is the best possibility for you selling your home in today's market, because what's good for you is not good for everybody else. While you're at Go Gaddis Radio, click on the upside, put in a little information. Does it make sense to get an all-cash offer closed quickly? Does it make sense to sell your home as is? Does it make sense to make some improvements to your home and sell it? Or does it make sense to buy your new home before you sell your existing home? We'll discuss all that. Even if you've already decided you want to list with someone else, it never hurts to get a second opinion, and there's no cost or obligation. Again, it's GoGaddisRadio.com. When we come back in our neighborhood spotlight, we're featuring Summer Lake and McDonough for those who live on the south side of town. And is there a slide in the percentage of homeownership households? And man, you got to be aware of online scams. My 85-year-old mother sends me things almost every single day, and it's absolutely embarrassing. Stick with us. We've got that and more. We'll be back.